Hey, what is going on, SMT Nation? It is your boy, the SMT. We're going to be talking about a big Spectrum auction up and coming later on this year and moving into next year. There's actually a couple of auctions. I'll touch on the CBRS auction for the 100 megahertz a little bit later. I think that's the 3.4, 3.5 gigahertz spectrum. So I will mention that a little bit later in the video. But we're going to focus on T-Mobile, Verizon, and how they're kind of on the same side, and then how AT&T and Dish are on the opposite side of this. So what's going to be happening, I don't know, as soon as things get sorted out, is we're going to be seeing the additional auctioning of the rest of 2.5 gigahertz spectrum auctions. So the spectrum that T-Mobile is doing its N41 over, this 2.5 gigahertz, T-Mobile is really the majority holder of those licenses. But there's so much of it that is still unlicensed and has been used for different use cases. We know that the DSCs with churches, as well as educationally with schools and institutions, they've been using it as well. And the rules around the licensing has been really it's been a huge problem. All right. Well, it's been a problem for, mobile network operators, right? Because they need mid-band spectrum to use for their commercial network deployments. T-Mobile, namely the big one, right? Clearwire, Sprint, and now T-Mobile. Okay. So anyways, the rules for the auction for the rest of this EBS BRS spectrum, 2.5 gigahertz, they're going to have to be created by the FCC. Now, the FCC can go about this in two ways. They could do the auction just like they did with C-band, which was a clock auction, or they can do a SMR auction, which is simultaneous multiple round. So those rules have to be put in place. Now, we are in open comment period, and AT&T and Dish are against an SMR auction. Verizon and T-Mobile are for an SMR auction. Now, this is where things are kind of technical, so you're going to want to listen up to this. This is a description of what an SMR auction is, according to the FCC and the rules that they govern. Remember, T-Mobile and Verizon want an SMR auction from the FCC website. In SMR auction, all licenses are available for bidding throughout the entire auction, thus the term simultaneous. Unlike most auctions in which bidding is continuous, SMR auctions have discrete, successive rounds with the length of each round announced in advance by the Commission. After each round closes, round results are processed and made public. Only then do bidders learn about the bids placed by other bidders. This provides information about the value of the licenses to all bidders and increases the likelihood that the licenses will be assigned to the bidders who value them the most. The period between auction rounds also allows bidders to take stock of and perhaps adjust their bidding strategies. In an SMR auction, there is no preset number of rounds. Bidding continues round after round until a round occurs in which all bidder activity ceases. That round becomes the closing round of the auction. So this would explain why AT&T and Dish do not want an SMR auction, because that would be to the advantage of a company like T-Mobile. T-Mobile would be trying to walk away with huge swaths of spectrum in this type of format. They already have, in a lot of instances, 120, 140, 160 megahertz of 2.5 gigahertz. The auction is going to be for two different 50 megahertz blocks, along with a third block, and that one at 15 megahertz. So a total of about 115 megahertz. I think it's 114. If T-Mobile was to walk away with large chunks of this 2.5, it would actually be really good for T-Mobile, right? Because it would keep their N41 contiguous in large channel bandwidth. In my opinion, that is the best case scenario for T-Mobile, and I think it's actually good for the general public. However, it is not good for AT&T because T-Mobile is their competitor, and I'm assuming that AT&T doesn't necessarily want to bid in this auction because of their financial situation already, with lots of debt, and they paid a lot of money for C-band. So it's going to be hard on their investors. They've got to deal with a lot of the other things going on within their company. It all makes total sense. Now, why does Dish want to oppose this format of SMR? The reason that Dish wants to oppose it is because Dish would probably treat the 2.5 gigahertz auction as a situation where they can get involved very regionally, very spotty. here and there trying to pick up some licenses. So therein lies the problem. It conflicts with what Dish wants and AT&T's ability to compete based on their financial situation. But again, I think it makes total sense. T-Mobile wants to get large chunks of the BRS EBS, the 2.5 gigahertz, because they already have a lot, and they want to fill in the gaps where they don't have that much or possibly don't have any, right? So it allows them to kind of fill those gaps. And then for Verizon was to come in and get a 50 megahertz block in these different regions. That's a huge boom for their capacity. And, obviously they've got very good tower density. It would be an instant, upgrade. They could just put it on basically whatever tower site, wherever they have those licenses, and they've got 50 megahertz. Boom. It would be a huge, huge upgrade. So that's kind of the situation. Now, if I'm going to make a prediction, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how this happens. Here's the thing. Timing kind of matters here. And this is why I think the FCC could make a smart decision. If they decide to allow an SMR auction and allow T-Mobile to walk away with a big chunk of this, I'm okay with that, right? AT&T doesn't get any, Dish doesn't get any, fine. What I would then do in the subsequent auction with, Spectrum auction for the 100 megahertz of CBRS, I would probably look to keep whoever was involved in the 2.5 gigahertz auction, I would probably keep them out of the CBRS auction. Right, so with that 100 megahertz, I'm assuming they'd probably auction it in either 10 megahertz blocks or 20 megahertz blocks. I would probably keep T-Mobile out of that one, and I'd probably keep Verizon out of that one too, if they were both to walk away with the 50 megahertz blocks of EBS BRS with the 2.5 gigahertz. So that's how I would approach it if I was the FCC. Otherwise, what are you left with doing? Are you going to change the format and make it a clock format? I mean, I don't know if that really helps anybody with the contiguous blocks, because then you're still left with the BRS, EBS, 2.5 gigahertz conundrum that you had before this auction, right? So let me know what you think of this news. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm more excited about the 100 megahertz of CBRS, but I do want to see this go to T-Mobile, honestly. At the end of the day, it makes more sense for them to have it. I don't really care if Dish doesn't get the spectrum. I think Dish should be moving their attention towards the CBRS anyways. They already have about 10 or 20 megahertz national anyways from the last auction last summer. So they should probably turn their attention to the CBRS, in my opinion. And I think actually Verizon should too. But again, I would like to see that CBRS spectrum go high power. Pretty much all mid-band needs to go high power, in my opinion. Anyways, let me know what you think of this story. I could do a follow-up on the CBRS auction piece as well. Go ahead and get that discussion going down in the comment section below. The voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard. Thank you for taking this opportunity to watch the SMT YouTube channel. If you appreciated this video, give it a like and a share to all your favorite social media platforms. Thank you in advance for that. Also, check out some of the links in the description box. We have the SMT Patreon page. We also have the Twitter handle @SneedTech. And do check out the audio-only podcast available on all the major podcast platforms. And if you are new and have not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and activate the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload from the SMT. We'll catch you on the next video. Peace.